Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Psychic Realm Podcast. I am your host, Psychic Mediums Angelo. Tonight, our very special subject, one that we're all looking forward to. I assume we are. I hope we are. A glitch in the Mandela effect. Well, wait a minute, Angelo. Isn't that a glitch in the Matrix? Well, it could be. Don't you mean the Mandela effect? Well, perhaps I do. But right now, it's a glitch in the Mandela effect. I sent photographs to the members of my esteemed team tonight, who are clockwise and counterclockwise here, depending on how you're looking at it. Anthony Quinata, psychic medium of some many, many years. We won't tell him how old you are, Ant. Marianne Howard, co-author of Shadow of a Bassman, a really interesting book on the death and replacement of Paul McCartney. She co-authored with Miss Ann Walsh and
his co-host, Shirley Bolstok.
Host on tonight's show. I am Psychic Shirley Bolstok.
Okay, here we go. You're all back on with me?
Yeah.
We're here.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I want to tell everybody we're having some issues here in New Jersey, really high winds and a couple of down lines. So if I
go away, he'll be back.
I have up to speed. Tell everyone what the Mandela effect is.
Who was that? Who was that too, Angelo? You froze.
That was for Shirley.
The Mandela effect. A lot of people remember Nelson Mandela dying back in about the 1980s in prison. And you even saw eulogies, people crying. It was all over Inquires, this type of, and I remember seeing these Inquires of this type of thing. The deal is, you were still around 2013. Strange, right? So this is called the Mandela effect because so many have memories of him dying in the 1980s, but yet he was very well and alive on planet Earth in 2013. So this was the beginning of a lot of changes and discrepancies. People start seeing on the internet, people start seeing on brands, people start seeing in different last names with different, movie stars, different dates according to the way we remember things. So this was dubbed the Mandela effect because the original was him dying in the 80s, people remembering it and seeing him in 2013. Alive and well.
Well said, Shirley.
Thank you. Angela, you're still present, so I'll go ahead and continue. So when you're looking at the background of Angelo here, you can see many of the different brands that have been changed or appear to have been changed. I remember seeing Looney Tunes, and I definitely remember TOONS with Looney Tunes. I remember my t-shirts having this. And now, of course, it's spelled TUNES, Captain Crunch. Very few people remember this Captain, Crunch. And then we've got Captain Crunch. The Flintstones is another one. I remember watching the Flintstones. I don't remember the Flintstones. I mean, do you, Marianne or Anthony, do you remember the Flintstones?
No, Flintstones. Same thing with Fruit Loops. That's changed. That's another one that's changed.
Oh yeah, that's back there. Fruit Loops. What do you think, Anthony, about all these different brands changing and the original Mandela effect? Let's see what you've got to say about all this.
I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. I mean, when the original Mandela effect came out, what was interesting to me was people were seeing, they claimed, actual news reports and things on the internet, and you find out later on that it really wasn't true. And a lot of conspiracy theories were spun out of this whole Mandela effect, which I've always thought fascinating, but it's not anything I've ever really, kept up with, to be very honest with you. I do love the whole Captain Crunch and then Captain Crunch, Land O'Lakes and then Land O'Lakes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The thing that I found fascinating was because when we first started looking at these, that if you went back into the brand history, they weren't marketing changes. They would have had the previous brand and the marketing changes saying we changed our name, we changed our logo.
Mhm.
That's not the case. Same thing with Fruit of the Loom and losing the cornucopia of the basket of fruit falling, cascading
Oh,
out. The cornucopia is gone. That was not a brand change. What happened to it's in our labels of everybody's underwear, right?
Or Curious George losing his tail. Angelo, we're not hearing any sound. There you go. Hold on. I thought that was the strangest thing to have a Curious George without a tail.
Yeah.
Why would they even want to change that anyway?
Well,
But,
isn't he's a monkey, right? Monkeys have tails. So I mean, that's not even a change. That's not even a change that makes any sense.
Are we okay now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Terrific. All right. Good. So let me address some of the logos we have behind me here. Talk about Captain Crunch and Fruit of the Loom and all these products that we know and love. Well, in a few of these cases, because I did some research, and as I always do for my shows, I do extensive research. I actually called HarperCollins Publishing today and asked them about the Bernstein Bears. They laughed when I called, of course, and they said, okay, what would you like to know? And I said, okay, tell me if I'm nuts. Is it, and I just told them like this, is it the Berenstain Bears or is it the Bernstein Bears? They said, well, depending on when you bought the book, both are correct. Let me tell you what happened. In an attempt to sound less ethnic, the Berenstein family named the bears Berenstain, S-T-A-I-N. But there is, in fact, a book, and it was published back in '63, the Berenstein Bears. That was the first series of books. They are real. They are both real, so you know. The other thing, and I want to address what Marianne Howard was talking about. There have been a couple of marketing changes we need to note. The Kit Kat bar, which is a Hershey company, wholly owned by Hershey Chocolates, did in fact remarket the brand Kit Kat without the middle hyphen. That's a fact. So they did that. That's a real deal. The other thing you need to know is Captain Crunch and Captain Crunch. Okay? They're both cereals. They're both real. One is American domesticated. The other is Great Britain. They don't abbreviate captain in Great Britain. They write out the word captain. So that's where that Captain Crunch box came from. That's from Great Britain. Now, is it the Flintstones or the Flintstones? It is Flintstones. It's always been the Flintstones, not the Flintstones. But when you're 6 and 7, who cares? It's the Flintstones. So now that we got that out of the way, is there a real Mandela effect, Anthony Quinata?
Yeah, I believe there is. I mean,
I believe there is too, and I think that we can pinpoint to a couple of people that are perpetrating the Mandela effect. There are, and as I mentioned on a previous show, there is a deliberate attempt, a purposeful attempt to manipulate our history, to rewrite history, and in fact, in some cases, to erase it completely. There are people who have the money, the time, the power, and the agenda to do this. And they are doing so and making every opportunity available to them to change the computer systems of the world. They are doing that now. That's real. That's happening in both Great Britain and France and the U.S. All three. This I call this the Devil's Triangle. This trinity, this mad trinity of computer hackers. By the way, professional computer hackers, the worst kind, government computer hackers, are real good at what they're doing. Yeah. And they are making every attempt to, as I said, change and in some cases, all out erase history. And they're doing a very successful job of it. However, like in any grand group, you're going to have people that are disillusioned. You're going to have people that whose voices aren't heard, who want to be heard, and those people will speak out. And usually they speak out in the forms of whistleblowers. And those whistleblowers are in abundance, I assure you. And they're telling people, you are being manipulated. You are being told, spoon-fed what to say, what to do. You don't know it, and here's how they're doing it. People who work for these giant conglomerates, the British intelligence, CIA, and I forgot forgive me, I forgot the name of the group in France. But essentially, all of the largest intelligence agencies all have a hand in this. Shirley and I broached that subject on another show, and you're making some waves when other podcasts are talking about you. And there are a few podcasts talking about the Psychic Realm podcast right now. And I'll take all the publicity they want to give us. So keep talking. Thank you very much. So that is what we know. That is what I know. That is what I can prove factually. And everyone who listens to this show, they'll hear me say it time and time again. I can prove it. It's very important for me to back up what I say. And when I say something, it's true. I don't bullshit. I'm a great bullshitter at a party, but this is a different kind of party, and I speak the truth. Every time I come before my colleagues and friends here, I'm like I'm in front of the Warren Commission. I uphold the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help Mary Ann Howard. So, Shirley.
Yes.
I'm going to let you run for a little bit with this puppy and talk to everybody about how the glitch in the matrix and the Mandela effect are directly correlated one to another.
Well, the reason they're correlated one to another is because often the Mandela effect, where things seem a little weird, they're not how we remember them. We start looking things up. We start wondering if we've lost our minds. And then the glitches in the matrix is what appears to be almost a glitch in the timeline, dates being changed, things being remembered differently. So yes, I think they definitely correlate, and it's causing even more confusion, but one is handing one off to the other in a do-si-do is what I think is going on.
Anthony Quinata, she pinpointed it exactly, and that is exactly the means and methodology that these crazies, the proverbial mad scientists are using. They want everyone to be confused. They want people to question their sanity, what they remember, what they know. But here's what you and I know, Anthony. It's something you and I can relate to, being who we are. We know that we know that we know. Our reassurance is in our knowledge that we know. When I tell somebody I know that I know that I know, you're not going to change my mind because I know. Simple as that. Anthony, walk me down this slippery slope. How dangerous is this? Or are they just a bunch of people having fun?
There's a psychological term for what we're referring to. known as gaslighting.
Absolutely.
And it's from the movie Gaslighting, in which somebody attempts to convince somebody that what they believe happened never happened.
Yeah.
And, the person who's the victim of the gaslighting begins to doubt their own sanity. And I think, I do believe that's going on a global scale. I also think, excuse me, that one of the reasons why is that we're so easy to manipulate with social media being the way it is. Just throw it out there and just keep insisting that it's true and that what you know to be true is actually false. And I'm seeing it a lot, in politics, with, our current president, with our past president. It's just nuts, in my opinion. You still with us, my friend? Oh, there you
I'm
are.
here, yes.
Yeah.
Mary Ann Howard. Can you
Yeah.
hear me there?
Yes, honey,
Okay.
I can.
Okay, well, chime in, Mayor.
Well, they sum up it very well. I am seeing it in the CGIs and in pictures when you're talking about what people can do to manipulate. So they are manipulating memories then that way and people and putting things in that aren't there and taking things out.
Sure. Well, is it the magic of Photoshop, or is it, and like I said on the previous show, is it real or is it Memorex?
It's CGI. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but is it real or is it Memorex? That's the question.
It's what they want it to be, and that's why they're changing it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's what they want it to be. And it's always going to be what they want it to be. That's the whole point. Is there an end game to this? Yes, there is. I got a little heads up on what the end game is. Fortunately, the good guy, let's give you the good news first. The good guys win, okay? So rest assured that we come out on top. Number one. Number two, there is going to be an upheaval in the next year to 2 years, a ramping up of this kind of activity. If you think it's bad now,
Oh, it's going to get worse.
it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. By 23 and 24, you're not going to recognize the internet. You won't recognize it. You won't want to use it. And that is precisely the end game. That's the end game. They want the internet completely and totally obliterated to the public and solely privatized for governmental use. That's a fact. That's what they want. By the way, nobody owns the internet. And people profiting from the internet are doing so illegally, including the government, including cable companies, including internet companies. You don't own the internet. It was supposed to be free. So that's one. I'll get on my soapbox later with that one, Anthony. Shirley, let's talk about this this folding, this lapping of time we call a glitch in the matrix. You and I both agree, and we've discussed on a previous show, that we believe time has folded in on itself. I want you to take that and explore that with Mary Ann and Anthony tonight.
Well, I used to have a lot of different theories about what was going on, about time folding in on itself. I know that the vibration of time seems to be moving faster and faster. But the thing that I noticed that is the strangest of all, it's almost as though probabilities and possibilities are almost coming in together almost all at once. And it's creating a very peculiar type of environment that is almost very disconcerting. And I find it very unstable.
Can I tell you something, Shirley?
Sure.
That's all by design.
That's what I thought.
That's all by design. There's nothing accidental about that. And I'm glad that we have broached that subject right at the top here. It is absolutely deliberate. again, the consequence versus the convenience. Is there a consequence for their actions? Not yet, but there will be. Right now, it's a convenience for them. But there will be a clear consequence to their actions. And when the hammer comes down, I don't want to be these guys. You know, the world is full of crazy people, a lot of mad scientists. So I don't trust science, I'll be honest with you. I'm fascinated by science, but I don't trust it. I think there are too many, as much as I admire Albert Einstein, for example, Einstein was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Because he did things that no normal, ordinary, sane, rational person would do. And that was part of his genius. But again, it was a mad genius. And it was in some ways, and I'll caveat myself, it was an uncontrolled genius in a lot of ways. There's a fine line, Anthony Quinata, between genius and insanity. I've read articles that Einstein was as mad as he was brilliant. You say what to this? Put your psychic hat on.
I agree wholeheartedly. In fact, I've known a couple of people I would consider to be genius. And one guy I knew, he actually spent time in an asylum. And when he got out, I was like, wow, it's good to see you out. And he said, yeah, well, when I stopped trying to convince them I wasn't crazy and started acting crazy, all of a sudden they're starting to usher me out the door. And,
well, you know what's funny that I have to tell you, very often guests on this show parallel my life, and that's not an accident.
Synchronicity.
I have a 228 IQ right now, and that is considered above and beyond genius. When I was a kid, I almost went to one of them special schools, okay?
Yeah.
Because they didn't know what to do with kids like us. So what do you do with kids like us? You put them away. At some point, they're going to see, everything hidden in the darkness eventually makes its way to sunlight. So these kids, if you put them away long enough, they're going to see sunlight at some point. The question is, Anthony, do they come out, genius, or do they come out mad? That's the question. There's a fine line between genius and insanity. And I've been accused of being both, quite frank. And I'll be honest with you, I've been accused of being both. People who know me know, I'm crazy smart, but people who know me also know that I'm really laid back and mostly humble for the most part. Once in a while, I brag on myself, but sometimes you have to. If you don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Right?
Marianne.
Yep.
Exactly.
They'll pick up the torch for you.
Yeah, but it's all good though. You know what I'm saying? But there is that fine line. But when you know that then the line all of a sudden becomes very definitive and very clear cut. So it's hard for people to convince people like us of anything other than what we know. The question I asked Anthony is there damage in this? And I think we would all concur that, yeah, there is damage in this. Gaslighting can hurt a lot of people, Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
It can hurt a lot of people. But so can, cowering the truth. So can hiding, the facts. Just because you hide them doesn't make them any less factual. I'll give you a perfect example, the Kennedy assassination. You can believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed John Kennedy all day long. The facts prove otherwise. Okay? Those facts will remain hidden largely because the people who control those facts will never allow them to see the light of day. Not until some human being with a conscience comes along and says, enough of this crazy shit, let's open up these books.
Mm-hmm.
And then and only then does the truth see the light, such as the Mandela effect and the Matrix. The Matrix is, in my opinion, universal and physiological. The Mandela effect is pure, unadulterated manipulation. That's what that is. There's nothing esoteric or spooky or psychic or otherworldly about the Mandela effect. Let's be clear. Let us be very, very clear. It is manipulation of the highest order. Now, a glitch in the matrix. We've talked about this on a previous show. I have this theory, and I want to share it with Marianne and Anthony. Shirley already knows where I stand on this. I believe that the universe is like a ribbon that folds in on itself, kind of like this crazy 8 pattern. Imagine that, Shirley. Crazy 8 pattern. Right?
Watch it.
And I think, yeah, and I think that because of this, this, we'll call it infinity, for lack of a better term, this infinity pattern that keeps rotating itself, it's bound at some point to intersect. And it does often. At every turn, it intersects. How often it does, at what rate of speed it does, I don't know. But I know that it does. And I know, and again, I think I can prove it. I know that in my frame of reference, I think I can prove that time has folded in on itself. Time is slowing down. It is allowing people the opportunity. Hi, honey. My wife just walked in. Sorry, folks.
Oh, there he goes.
Haven't seen her all day. But it's allowing people the opportunity to do, the dirty deeds they need to do, and then time will speed up. There is a mechanism that is aiding in time slowing down. It is a real piece of machinery that's harbored in Alaska right now, just outside of Juneau, Alaska. It's called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. It stands for the High Auroral Atmospheric Research Project. And they are controlling everything from the weather to the ocean to airplane travel to ship travel. They are controlling everything electronically. They are even moving, if you can believe this, and it's true, they have the data to prove it, and the research is there. They are moving satellite.
Yep.
Looks like somebody moved
Somebody moved
Angelo's satellite.
Froze just for a moment there, Angela.
He's froze. He'll be coming back at some point.
I'm going to I'll put my hand up when it's edit point, when he starts talking again, so he'll know.
Okay. I was just going to say that when he was talking about the infinite 8 and time folding, that's hitting me with some things that I've been hearing about with the sine wave and the pattern of the sun. And if you look at the sun going from the Tropic of Cancer and down and up and then down again as we hit the equinoxes, and it just does the same thing, and it's going to overlap in.
And we're back. All right, now what were you saying, Marianne, about the sun?
I was just saying that the sun is going in that same figure 8 pattern. If you look at it, it's a sine wave. It's going up from the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer, comes back through the equator, and then goes back down for into the winter season, and then it's going back up. And it's doing that same figure 8 in a sense. It's the ribbon. It's a ribbon going around the earth. And when you look at the, I know that wasn't Angelo's favorite subject before, but when you look at the star systems and it's doing the same thing, what that has to do with time, I'm not quite sure, but it is still something that's sort of a fascinating effect. And how much of that speeding up and, how much is the Earth's patterns doing the time effect?
Well,
You know what I mean?
Well, Angelo just said he thought that time was actually slowing down and they were doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to show, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I have to sit back can you guys see this grid?
You
Yes.
have to put it in front of you.
How's that?
No, it's gone.
No, it's gone.
Okay. I'll show it again when I'll change my background.
When your background's off.
Yeah. What I have noticed is that everything seems to be on a grid with access points. And a lot of it is, it deals with 0 point. And it goes in a lot like that, figure 8, exactly what you said with those ribbons. But right at those ribbons, if you take a 0 and you twist it, you got a number 8.
Right.
And so there you got your endless loop. But what were you saying, Anthony?
Oh, no, I was just saying that somebody, I can't remember, I think he was down in Ecuador or someplace like that, was taking a picture of the sun every day at the exact same time.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
at the end of a year, it literally made the infinity loop, which,
Yes.
Oh,
Which
that
is
makes
what I was
perfect
saying.
sense. That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
Exactly.
what I was saying, because of the way it's going to go up and come down as the seasons change, and where the access points are along the equator, where you have March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, down below for December and back up. It's doing that. It's doing that loop. So how it time equates with the days and the changings of the sun. I feel like time is going fast for us. I feel like maybe people that are awake feel the time speeding up a little bit versus maybe some of the others think it's slowing down.
That's true. Here, let me show you this grid.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
actually
we can
work
see
with
it
this
now.
grid. Okay, so when you got this grid like this, where you could see the different, this actually, Walter Russell did a lot of three-dimensional grids that very much copied what this one looks like. And you can see, no matter how you turn it, it all looks the same. It all looks the same, which kind of tells you that inside in and inside out are the same. It's just a matter of attraction and polarity, but it's all within the same grid. And just because you polarize, does that mean that you've made a change? It means you're still on the same grid. You just went into either polarization or attraction. And to me, all these different intersecting lines are timelines, or possible or probable timelines that can come through. And then when you see the circles, to me, that's like 0 point frequency. But at the same time, in between, you see access points, which are also number 8s that are within there as well.
And they hit an apex.
So, to me, it was.
What happens when you throw that into a dimensional grid? And so now you're adding depth as opposed to it being a flat 2-dimensional, and you go into the 3-dimensional where there's
that already exists. That already exists. And this is what I think is big time being utilized to mess with all of us, that they're actually doing something that is very peculiar with attraction and polarity is what I think is going on. And so there is a 3D picture of Walter Russell that, looks very 3D. And he studied around the time of Tesla, and I believe he worked with Tesla. So if you want to look at this, well, look at this right here. There's your boxes right there.
right.
And of course, the way the boxes are connected, they would have to be attracted to one another to create an absolute grid. So I think there's constant turnings of, polarity and attraction that's actually starting to screw with people. I think that this is the type of thing that they're working with. And I think this is how it worked with changes. In other words, even with, you would call a Democratic or Republican parties, or they want people to look at things differently, they just keep turning it and making the other side the opposition. And then,
Right.
of course, you change, your information, you change who said what or when and where it happened, and you completely change people's perception of time and where and when it happened. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I could find one more quickly. And one of the things that I cannot understand is why are they having to change movie titles? Or not movie titles, but lines in movies. If
Right.
Luke, I Am Your Father made a ton of money, on t-shirts and everything else, why would that turn into No, I
I'm
Am Your
not
Father?
sure that they did those glitches. I don't know that they're intentional. The movie lines. I think it's something, whatever happened, those are the little anomalies that occurred. That is not something that was intentionally put out there to change. They wouldn't have changed The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars and some of these other, famous movies to have those little word switches. But because we've all watched these movies over and over repeatedly, year after year, some of them, we know what they said. It was like, when you're memorizing the lines, the lines of a movie. So that's just one of those weird things that why did it happen? That's the Mandela effect. Why, there isn't I don't know that we have an answer for that.
Well,
Do we?
I think that if you change history, you change the consciousness, you change how we think things happened, and it's going to change us. All direction is curved, right? Ocean is spiral. You look at this, all direction is curved. So what it happens is everything is always in motion. Everything is continuing in motion. Our minds are in motion. Our thoughts are in motion. The things that we accept are in motion. And so what starts to happen is we start to perceive different types of, and this is a structure of an atom. Okay, look at this. This is a structure of an atom. Now,
It's not,
if we could, can you see it? Is this a little better? It's
yeah, I don't know. It might show up on the screens for people. For me,
That's all right. It's just showing a curve, and they say this is the curve of an atom. Okay, so if our atoms are always in motion, in other words, every bit of information that we ever pick up actually goes into us physiologically.
And what is and the atoms? It turns out they're just the energy and the frequency anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. I will bring us back to our aces and eights here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just a little easier to show with my dynamic alien background. Exactly how that works. You think we should try to add?
Oh, he'd call back in. He'll call back in when he's able, I'm sure.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about why they would want to change movie scenes that created amazing things like Field of Dreams. Build it and he will, build it and they will come. And it made no sense for them to say, build it and he will come.
Right. Who is he? It's almost like they want to say, build it and he will come. It's like the God, let's call in God versus the baseball team.
Right.
That's
well,
where my head goes.
This is Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams. Did you see Field of Dreams, Anthony?
I did.
Yeah, and do you remember that great line, build it and he will come? This is because he wanted his father to come. So right. How does, build it and they will come, that the people will start coming, but it turned into only build it and he will come. And I never understood why that line was changed in the movie. And the same thing with Forrest Gump. If that was such a popular and universal amazing movie.
But they didn't change it. The movie people didn't go in and manipulate those movies and change those lines and have them redo them.
Well,
I don't know what happened to it, but I don't think that was purposeful.
Do we really know if that was purposeful?
Well, we don't know if it was or not.
But, if they're changing other things in the Mandela and reporting different brands differently and different things, I don't know. What do you think, Anthony?
I think it's like taking a frog, putting it in water, and slowly turning up the heat. I think that's what's going on with us collectively. Eventually the frog doesn't realize that it's burning to death. Yeah. And when it finally does, it's too late. I really think, I I don't spend hours and hours and hours, but I do notice this happening. I've become so disillusioned with social media and, in general, Facebook, Twitter. It's like, who knows what the truth is anymore?
Don't
It's
know.
whatever somebody tells you it is. And then,
It's what you believe.
if you believe it, it's true. If you don't, you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. But like I said, I do think it's just like boiling a frog in water. You just slowly turn up the heat.
Right.
And they say that if we have enough of people believing something, we can create it, correct?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're all, of a certain age that we can all remember a time when, rotary phones were the thing and computers sitting on our desk definitely were not. And now I think about this all the time. I've got nieces and nephews.
Now we have this size computer.
Yeah.
I mean, I have,
We went from that
nieces
huge
and nephews that
mainframe
are
with cards
5 years old and are so much smarter than me when it comes to, a cell phone or a computer. And I keep thinking, man, what's it going to be like for you guys, when I'm gone? You know what I mean? And, what's the world going to look like for you guys?
I notice that when I'm seeing with my granddaughter, who's only 4 years old.
There you go.
She knows how to swipe things and go into things and play video games already. And she gets limited, believe me, she is very limited in what they let her use and how much time. But these kids are sponges.
Sponges, but you know what's a bad thing about that is they're being programmed too.
Yeah.
They're being programmed with the information they're sponging.
Absolutely.
And they're learning that this is God, okay? That this phone is God. This has all information. This will give you everything you need to know. This will give you whatever information that you need. And if they privatize it in the future that you're not able to get the internet, then you're going to be paying a lot of money. And not only you're going to be paying a lot of money, you're only going to get what you pay for, which is what they want you to have. So I think that this is a terrible problem with mass control of our minds. And so if we are remembering things differently, then of course you're going to have a different kind of consciousness. And if you're able to take something, on a magnet that's like this, and just keep polarizing it, then before you know it, the duality of truth is a reality. You're almost open to almost anything that makes sense at the time. And you may not want to sit there and think about what's going to happen now. Is there something wrong with this picture? Oh, no, they told us this is absolute, so it must be. Yeah.
So we're taking evil at one side and good on the other side, and we're trying to see where it's going to hit in the middle.
I don't think so. I see it more as a point of neutricity in the middle, a point of neutricity. This is where we really should be, a point of neutrality, and not on the attraction side or the polarity side. That this is where the best point of reference is neutrality, right here, because you understand that this is going to connect. This is going to connect to attraction, or, it's going to repel with polarity. But if I switch it, they're going to connect. So what they're looking at is to connect the lines, to connect emotion. What are we going to create the most motion in order to make things happen? And playing with the minds of people, because they know how powerful we are as humans, is one of the ways that they are truly manipulating us. Now, the kind of glitches in the matrix that bug me are the type of things that people say, well, I was driving down the street and a branch came into, the car window, and I felt I died. I knew I died. I could feel me leaving my body, and I kind of opened my eyes, and next thing you know, I'm driving down the street. And I'm fine. But, they get home and they mention that their girlfriend seems different, doesn't seem to be the same person, this type of thing. Or or they mention that, certain things with where they, work are different. And so they swear that they died in a timeline, but were kept alive to continue a purpose. So there's been a lot of different instances of this, including I think it was Lorena Garcia Gatto, was it, that woke up in a different timeline. So I'm really interested in what either one of you think. Why a change of timeline? Was this person supposed to fulfill a purpose? Do you think that timelines can actually be eradicated? Can they die and people are their consciousness elsewhere?
Could that be, as you two would know this, and I'm just coming from the outside non-psychic aspect, but when we've heard you know, talking about walk-ins, could that be somebody that's coming in as a walk-in? It's just they're coming in later in life and to, like you said, finish out whatever the soul mission might be, or I don't know.
I don't know. Anthony, what do you think about walk-ins? Do you think it actually exists? Do you think this is, I know that you work a lot with spirits who cross over. Do you think this is something that actually happens?
Honestly, my first reaction is that's above my pay grade. Is it possible? Sure. You know what I mean? I don't think it's any crazier than the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you two ladies, you know, through a box. Is it possible, you know, a soul will walk in and take over another one? You know, my understanding is it's pretty much, you know, one soul per customer. All right. And you know, in order for a walk-in to happen, the other soul has to either, you know, be relegated to another part or another body completely. But again,
well, in that case, what she's talking about, they died. If they were in a spot where, okay, a split second, you're dying, and now somebody's coming in and taking over that body at the same time, which would then give them some of those memories, but then also see the changes. Maybe somebody interacting with them is not going to notice, is going to notice the little oddities. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, it's something to look at. You know, it's a theory. A lot of people absolutely don't agree with walk-ins at all. They think that we either advance our souls or, you know, or we may have, you know, epiphanies in order to add to aspects of our soul. But, you know, we do hear things, you know, out there that may be, you know, that where is consciousness? That's another one. Is it in the DNA, the way we remember? Does consciousness change our DNA, or does DNA change the way we perceive things in consciousness? So I would think that if you actually have time folding in on itself, that's going to, I think, could change the way your DNA takes information in, the way your brain takes in information, and the way you notice things. I mean, they say even with our eyesight, things are going on all the time that we don't pick up. So what happens if you see your sister coming down the stairs, right? You're sitting here and you see your sister coming down the stairs and you think, oh, I didn't know you were home. Oh, this is outstanding. You know, here you are. And great to see you. And she doesn't say a word, doesn't even look at you, just keeps walking, you know, and next thing you know, she's gone. Then you hear her drive up in her car, get out, open the door, and come up the stairs, and you're thinking, have I lost my marbles?
Yeah.
You were just here. No, I wasn't. You know, so what happens do you think that is a thought of time folding in on itself in order that, you know, these kind of confusing things are happening? Do you think it's just a glitch, you know, that shimmers at the time? Marianne, what do you think?
I'm sort of at a loss for all that, because if it's a glitch, when we sit there and think of, say, glitch in the Matrix, I sit there and think of the movie The Matrix, and then I'm like, okay, well, so are we just simulations playing out whatever storyline we have for ourselves, and the system's just going, you know, doing that glitch, you know, to change something freaky. Like the computer simulation is doing something to modify. Do we believe that? I don't
think we have a look at what shows we are insane.
Right. But these are the things that people are out there saying. So I'm just bringing this stuff up as what I saw. Now, like I was watching somebody was talking about a same thing like you were saying, a scenario with animals. You know, they watched somebody calling their pet to come eat food, and the next thing you know, the cat's coming down and it goes down, but then it's doing it again. It's like it's not hearing it. There's more than one cat, but yet there is only one cat.
I actually watched a movie where you could see the walls breathing. It was an old movie, and those walls were breathing. They weren't even standing straight up like you would watch in a movie. And they were like breathing, and things were off at angles. And it was actually a really creepy thing, you know, to look at.
I saw a video of that in the woods, that the ground was breathing. The ground was going up and down.
So, you know, my question is, Anthony, I'll ask you first, you know, have you ever been and, you know, just out for a walk or out and things just suddenly feel like a state of non-reality, that time, you almost feel like you're in a cartoon, or you look up at the sky and the clouds seem like somebody blew fluffs in the sky. And do you think that, you know, are we doing a simulation here? Are we doing a simulation that we're unaware of?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that question, actually. When I was actively, and I no longer actively do this, investigating, quote, hauntings and such, your earlier discussion reminded me of a couple of incidents. One, a guy called me just frantic. And, you know, when I finally got him to calm down, I agreed to meet him at his home. And he was telling me that earlier that day, right before he called me, he was walking down the hall towards his master bedroom, and he saw himself walking towards himself. And, you know, naturally that freaked him out, right? And when he explained it to me, I said, so who won? He looked at me and said, who won? What are you talking about? I said, you know, the fight between you and your wife, who won? And he's like, what? And I said that it was my experience. I never experienced what he experienced, that sometimes when emotions get so intense, apparently they did with he and his wife the day before, it gets picked up and recorded, you know, into the universe. And when the conditions are right, it plays itself back again. There was another incident where a couple called me, and they were saying that when they were in their bedroom, they could hear another couple making love in the bedroom next door. And, you know, so I said, oh, I've got to hear this. Sure enough, you know, the three of us are standing outside one bedroom, and you could hear a couple making love next door. And I said, I have an idea. I was thinking about, you know, the guy who had seen himself. I went next door to their neighbors, knocked on the door, and I said, you know, this is why I'm here. And I just have a quick question or two for you. And the gentleman who answered the door was actually very pleasant. And I said, did you know the couple next door? He goes, oh, yeah, great couple. They lived there for a couple of years. And I said, did they do anything, you know, a little off-putting or a little strange? Or he says, no, not really. But they did have a great sex life. And I was like, well, what does that mean? He said, well, we could all hear them every night making love. So then I went back to the first couple. I said, well, here's what's going on. What they were doing, making whoopee every night, got picked up and is now being replayed again. So you have two options. One, you could either move into that room, and I seriously doubt you'll ever hear it again as long as you're in that room. Or two, throw a big party, throw it in that bedroom, play loud music, have everybody dancing, everything else, and just drown out, you know, the noise. Okay. And I think that's, you know, I think that's what's happening when, you know, we're talking about, you know, the Mandela effect or glitches in the matrix. All right. You know, it's like a recording that just keeps playing itself back. we were talking about ghosts a couple of nights ago, and one of the things I thought I should have said and didn't say was whenever somebody would report to me they've seen a ghost or they think they've seen a ghost, I'd say, could you see their feet? People be, what? Could you see their feet? And, every once in a while somebody would say, well, yeah, then it wasn't a ghost. Because a ghost is a projection of the image the person had. And I'll suggest this to both of you ladies. Close your eyes and picture yourself. Okay? Just for a quick moment, picture yourself. Now open your eyes. How much of yourself did you see?
Probably the upper half, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marianne?
Yep.
Same thing?
Yeah.
If you were an apparition and somebody saw you, and I just define an apparition as somebody, a spectral being that you can actually talk to and they will respond because they're very aware of you being there. That's what they'll see, your upper half. Most, people, when I was doing this in seminars, never saw their feet unless it was a couple of gay guys, maybe, oh yeah, I love my shoes, okay? You will actually project what you think of when you think of yourself. Whereas with, again, a ghost, all right, not an apparition, but an unconscious recording is, simply a replay of you going through your emotions and your emotions every day. So again, long-winded answer. I hope that was clear as to what I feel is going on with the Mandela effect, with apparitions, with being lost in time. I mean, my partner, Maria, she is an occupational therapist. Mm-hmm. And she's told me many times she'll go into somebody's home where she'll be knocking on the door and she'll know what the inside looks like. She'll know the people who are there.
She could already feel it. Okay.
Yes. And, she'll say, have I been here before? No. And she'll be like, but I've been here, kind of thing.
Deja vu?
So crazy. No, it's not so much deja vu because she's not seeing, repeats of, something she saw before.
It's more of an intuitive, this is a synchronistic thing that she's got going on. Exactly. That she's there in that space and time, but yet she can feel exactly what's going on.
Right.
Within it. And I agree that we're all very capable of doing that, I know that one of the things that I found kind of fascinating was this, a tale of a gal that she woke up and found her father up unusually up late. And he was waiting for her, to talk with her. And they started chatting about college and he started making suggestions. And these were suggestions he had never made before, never thought about, and they had a very interesting conversation. He would say things like, have you considered these kind of studies, in the future? And she said, well, no, I've never thought about that. And this was very, very real to her. This was not a dream. She swears it happened. And by the time they were done, he had told her where he thought she would do best in her studies and what she should major in college, right? Well, the next morning at breakfast, she says, well, Dad, thanks for the advice last night, although you seemed a little different, and I don't remember you ever being up that late. And he said, what are you talking about? I was sleeping the whole night. And she said, I'm sorry. And he said, I wasn't up last night. What are you talking about? So as it turned out, when she got older and went into college, she took the advice of what appeared to be her father, and she started doing it was exactly what she needed to do.
Oh, good for her.
And it actually worked out very, very well.
Sure.
So is this a case of a projection of her real dad, that might have come to her, although this was never anything he ever brought up? Or do you think there might have been a timeline glitch that was just meant to give her a piece of information of a synchronistic dad that exists at that time and space? They were able to meld in and bring that in. What do you think, Marianne?
Is that a timeline glitch, or is that just her higher self giving her what she needs?
She swore
Versus,
that it was
well, I
real
mean, but
as
she's
could
not
be.
going to know. She's not going to know what she's projecting as her from your higher self giving you what you need, or the dad, his higher self astro projecting into that area and doing the same thing. Either way, she got the message, which was a good thing.
I agree.
You think so, Anthony? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there was a subconscious part of herself, looked up to her father, sounded like, trusted him for good advice. And, the combination of the glitch and, the projection. Several years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we went to a Einstein's bagel place. And the girl behind the counter, kept smiling at me and, and acting like she knew me. And my friend and I sat down, and she walked up to us and she looked at me and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No, honey, I'm sorry, I don't." And then she said, "We knew each other. We both know, I can't remember, I'll just say Michael. We both know Michael." And I said, "Michael who?" And she said, "Our friend who committed suicide." And I said, "Honey, I don't know anybody named Michael who committed suicide anytime recently." She said, "Yeah, you were at this funeral." And I looked at the friend I was sitting with, and I was just like, I've not been to a funeral in months, okay? Anyway, she was telling me that her friend was very, very depressed, and all of a sudden he snapped out of it. And she said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, I'm seeing a spiritual director. His name is Anthony, and he's giving me great advice, and I'm seeing life differently, and yada, yada, yada." And
somewhere you showed up, huh?
Yeah, somewhere, somehow. And anyway, unfortunately, he took his own life. And where she insisted that she knew me from was at the funeral. She said, "I saw you standing there and you looked just like Michael described you. So I went up to you and I said, 'Hi, are you Anthony?' And you said, 'Yes, I am.' And I introduced myself." She said, "We talked for about 10 minutes, about what a shame it was. And then I walked away." Right hand to God, never happened as far as I was concerned.
It happened. You just don't have that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it happened. I don't doubt
you were there. I've had people bilocated, maybe even, sometimes we don't even know why we do what we do or why these things turn out the way they do. But I'm thinking, Marianne, we've talked about, Angelo brought up how they, like with the Berenstain Bears, and I did hear that they didn't want the more Hebrew affiliation, so they called it the Berenstain Bears. Now, what do you think about what's going on? What they're taking out the backwards masking out of, the albums now? They're remastering the Beatles albums. Do you think it's really the same kind of thing, that they're changing people's perception?
Well, if they're taking out the backmasking, then they're taking out the clues that John and George left,
right?
And Billy to an extent.
They are taking them out. They are not on the remastered versions.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, first off, those remastered versions that's a whole nother animal, because what are they doing with manipulating of the voices at the same time? And we know they've done that. Well, they were even doing that a long time ago, where they would speed things up and slow things down to make the voice sound more reminiscent of other people, if you know what I mean. So,
right.
Yeah. If they're taking that out, I think it's because they're trying to make sure that people like me who are researching aren't seeing it anymore. And they're going to say, well, it's not there. But we all know that they are there, and they were there, and they're recorded.
Do you think that's the same thing that's happening with the Mandela effect? That maybe that's
no,
what they want with a lot of.
Well, the Mandela effect is so widespread, and it's over many different topics, whereas this would be more purposeful as a way of hiding more than anything else.
I don't know. I think that out there that there's a lot of information they would love to hide, and I think that's why things are changed, quite a bit. I don't know. What do you think, Anthony?
I just think that there are much smarter people than me who are manipulating all this. But I also believe that we're at a time where things are collapsing. We just know too much.
Yeah, I agree.
We know too much.
The information era. Yeah,
exactly.
People come to a conscious awakening now where they are aware of what's been being manipulated, and they're investigating those manipulations. And it's not conspiracies; it's people looking for truth. So when they're pushing that, and that conscious level is coming up, it's raising everybody. So I think it's just making it more apparent, and more people are starting to have a realization of what has been manipulated and hidden from them all these years. And we're not even talking years, we're talking decades, we're talking centuries.
Do you think it's possible there's also like portals? There are portals of time, that maybe when they fold in on itself, it's creating portals that people can enter, and a change could happen. For instance, people who say, well, I drove my usual route, and next thing you know, I'm in forest land and I've never been there before, and there's this house there that I've never seen before that I checked out, and there's people are revelry, going in. There's actually a reporting of this where these gals actually got lost. They found a house and they saw candlelight in the windows. There was no road anymore. They couldn't even understand where they were, and they could see candlelight in the windows, and people dressed in a very you might call it an old-fashioned thing, just like 200 years ago, and they were dancing and carrying on. And she got so curious, she tried to go in, and her friends grabbed her and pulled her back, and she wound up paralyzed in the very spot where she stepped in to take a look, and her friends pulled her out. And that paralysis, from what I understand, is still there of today. So it would be an interesting thought, and this has been documented. They say this actually did happen. These were witnesses. So it makes you wonder if we are actually acclimated to our times, and in order to manipulate us, they would have to start changing the information to start changing us. But she went into something completely different that her body wasn't acclimated to, or maybe it was a portal. So I'm interested on your thoughts on that as well. I'll start with you, Marianne.
Well, yeah, I don't know what she was seeing or what happened there, but that would be a glitch in time. Obviously, if it was centuries back, it's definitely an oddity, and somebody like Anthony probably would have taken his group and gone to explore, right? So, I do think that things have been happening for centuries, that the dark side is very patient. They seem to, how do I want to say that? They have a game plan, and they don't care how long it takes. They just make it evolve over a period of time, and they're changing people's views and their history. History is a big thing. They're changing history so that whenever it catches up to wherever they want it to be, we're already in that knowing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, no, I agree. And we know the history books are in favor of the ones who wrote them.
Right.
Who
wrote the history books, and where did that information come from? And so many things have changed since the after the Civil War in the 1800s, early 1900s, that you talk to there's people that have been living that were over 100 and some years old. I think there was one lady that was almost 110 or longer, and she remembers things in history back then that is not what they're teaching. But that's how she was taught.
So it's really never really changed. It's still the gaslighting,
Oh, the gaslighting is just amped up because now they have a bigger, way of communicating it to everybody. It's not the newspaper or telegram. We now have the television that's telling you what to vision, right?
Oh yeah, but we've also
So,
got the
and the
thing
internet.
going with mapping. You know, I remember a globe with South America being a lot closer to us. I don't
Oh,
remember South America being
South
so far
America,
away.
yeah, these maps. Who's changing these maps? That South America is now over about close to Africa. I mean, and the islands have changed. The Africa has changed as to their location as well. It's like the southern hemisphere has shifted.
Well, do you think it's possible that we just didn't have the maps before? I don't know. What do you think, Anthony? That maybe they're now figuring out what these maps really are like, or do you think that they are changing them, or do you think the land really did change?
No, honestly, I think that maps, I I can't give a timeline, but if you look at Australia and then you look at America, all right, North America actually looks a hell of a lot larger than Australia, when the exact opposite is true. Australia is much larger, but I think that's because, you know, as a nation, we've been wanting to nominate everybody first, you know.
Who made the maps, right?
My land's bigger than yours.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
maybe now they're just becoming more in line with what reality is. You know what I'm saying? That's
Well, then that goes back to one of the other conspiracies out there where they're trying to talk about flat Earth versus globe. You know, and that changes the whole dynamic of the continents and how they're laid out as well.
yeah. I mean, you know,
You better
we're
go.
just fed a lot of crap.
Yep.
You know, bottom
We're
line.
at it. It's
You
just
know, we're constantly trying to, personally speaking, constantly trying to, you know, separate, you know, fly shit from pepper. You know, and it's like, oh my God. Um, I just think we're being fed a lot of crap, but I do believe again that things, you know, we're at a point where we don't need to rely on a priest or a teacher or a nurse or a doctor, you know, for information. We can gather it ourselves, and
correct.
that, you know, and I think that's scaring a lot of powers that be.
They don't want
And
us
you
to
know,
think
if you
for
just
ourselves. Yeah.
unplug, you know, we'll be fine. That's just, you know, and then, you know, the Mandela effect, you know, glitches in, you know, time, it'll all work itself out, and, you know, we'll know the truth, and it'll be an exciting time. For me, you know, almost a scary time, but I've admitted I'm a Luddite. Yeah. You know, I'm so anti-technology anymore. But anyway, but you know,
Well,
it'll be an exciting time.
I think
It's a
that
great
it
time.
does boil down to our own gut instincts, trusting our gut instincts, coming down to what we know is our truth, you know, and staying with
I
that.
agree.
You know,
I agree.
I totally agree with that. Well, I totally look for Angelo to come back on, but
No, I didn't say anything but he had messaged that he wasn't coming back on.
okay.
So he
All
knew
right.
we were carrying on.
All right. Well, we're good. We're good. He added a lot of great stuff to this, so we'll put it all together, and it'll be a super show.
Yeah.
So,
You did a great job, Shirley. You did. You too, Marianne.
You too, Anthony.
Oh, I'm just like I said, a lot of this is above my pay grade.
you know, it really isn't. I think we have answers. I really do. I think that we are good. And so what I want to say is this has been fast. I know we're going to do this again, and it'll be part 3, and we'll explore even more and go into more mind-boggling, you know, thoughts, you know. And I'd certainly like to include a possibility of portals in between these timelines, you know, and how they're being created. I know that I was meant to meet a friend at a restaurant one night, and he was trying to call and text me, and I was trying to call and text him, and sure enough, we never found each other. He didn't see me there, I didn't see him there, but we were both there at the same time.
Wow.
And so that those things do happen. Yeah.
And you know how I was just saying that it's a time thing, and what the powers that be like to tell people what's going to be, what they're going to happen, what they're doing before they do it even. because they have to. It's their code. They have to tell. Look at the media and what they've been telling us over the last 10, 20 years.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Portals is become a big thing over the last 10, 20 years. Why is that? Why are some of these TV shows, we should get into that. Why are some of these shows coming out and bringing out some of these truths that we're now actually seeing come to play?
And maybe the Devil's Triangle and the Bermuda Triangle, are they in between those timelines? Are they portals themselves? So I think when we do Glitches in the Matrix and the Mandela Effect Part 3, we should all revisit those things, and it'll certainly be a very interesting show. But I want to thank, I think we're good on time here. I want to thank both Marianne and you, Anthony. Please give your contact information. Marianne first.
Okay, Marianne Howard is The Shadow of a Bass Man that I co-authored with Ann Walsh. You can get that on Amazon.com. We have a YouTube channel up now where we've had some interviews on the book, and we have that up there. Same thing with Facebook pages. We're out there in social media, and you can find us through Facebook or through our book.
All right, thank you. And Anthony, how do we get a hold of you?
Excuse me, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I think I'm on Twitter anyway. And on Facebook, it's my name, Anthony, Anthony. Last name is Quinata. You can, send me a friend request. I think I have a few more left per Facebook rules. Or
well, you're doing good if you're that high up in friends.
Oh, please. I'm not stupid here. If I tell anybody I'm moving, I'm not counting on any of them to show up. Anyway, I'm under no illusions here. Or you can contact me. The easiest way, because I have several email accounts, so the easiest way to reach me is anthony.quinata, Quinata, @hotmail.com. And if you're interested in a medium reading, which is what I do for a living, and I've also written several books, one of them, Communications from the Other Side, which was the suggestion of my editor, that I write my autobiography. And I said, if it wasn't for this goofy gift, I'm really rather boring. And We Are Never Alone, Reassuring Insights from the Other Side. And Until We Meet Again, Insights from the Other Side on Suicide. So, and all those are available on Amazon as well as bookstores near you.
Yeah, and your work on suicide has just been absolutely outstanding, Anthony.
Oh, thank you, Shirley.
Thank you. And I am psychic and medium, Shirley Bolstok. My website is Activate, and you can get a hold of me at poet444@gmail.com. And until we see you again, it will be we are, you are, I am, Activate. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.